काफ़ी हाथ होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अक्सर वाकई में लोग किताबें नहीं ख़रीद सकते. तो आई थिंक स्कूल्स और यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के साथ अगर आप काम कर सकते हैं, आप एक रीडिंग क्लास कर सकते हैं या रीडिंग सेशंस कर सकते हैं, ऑथर्स को बुला सकते हैं, पब्लिशर्स को बुला सकते हैं कि आए आप हमारे स्टूडेंट्स के साथ बात करें. अगेन इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ क्रिएटिंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ एंड अवेलिंग दोज अपॉर्चुनिटीज़. अब हम जैसे लोग बैठे हुए हैं, पाकिस्तान में कोई ऑथर्स की कमी नहीं है, लेकिन उन ऑथर्स के साथ आप लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? कभी आप लोगों ने इंगेज किया है, कभी आप लोगों ने उनको यूनिवर्सिटी पे बुलाया है लेक्चर के लिए, कभी आप लोगों ने उनकी जो किताबें हैं उनको अपने करिकुलम में डाली हैं. This was something that I was adamant on with Pakistan and Fashionable History. मैं किस यूनिवर्सिटी के पास नहीं गई थी, और आज वो किताब 2 यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में पढ़ाई जा रही है. इसमें ये नहीं कि शोहरत का काम है, इसमें ये है कि एक काम दिया गया है आपकी बेहतरी के लिए, आपकी नॉलेज में इजाफा कराने के लिए, तो आप उसे अपनाएं. आप क्यों नहीं अपनाएंगे?
I think that's a very good point, because abhi tak in a lot of local curriculum as well as international curricula that's being taught in Pakistan, the recommended book list is always Western. It's always, you know, if it's poetry, it's Keats. If it's plays, it's Shakespeare.
That's true.
It's
That's true.
modern plays pe aa jaye to it's Arthur Miller. But otherwise, you still have the Western writers. And even if they're not originally English writers, they've been translated to English, so we think that they were English writers. A lot of people like Tolstoy, Dumas, etc., right? Because we read them in English. But they're still the ones that are assigned. So I think that's a very good thing, because if anybody here is a teacher, if anybody, you know, is still studying in English literature classes, the one thing that you can do is ask your institution to assign you local authors. That's something that's happening in the West, actually. A lot of liberal arts colleges in the US have Mohsin Hamid's books as recommended reading before they begin the program, whether it's literature or not. We don't have our own authors as recommended programs. And I think libraries are a very good way to promote our local authors as well. But then once again, when jab institutions ki baat aa jati hai, there's a lot of, you know, backlash. Yeah, there's a lot of red tape, lots of unke apne forms bharne. With Alif Review, we wanted to put the Alif Review in all available libraries of Pakistan, public and private. But then it's all a matter of acha, you know, aap donate kar dein, but we spent money, you know, we don't earn from it for our own pockets, right? So you can't just kuch had tak to aap de sakte ho, but then you need the libraries to buy it, and it's an entire set for 10,000 rupees should not be a thing for a library. If I understand it's a lot of money for an individual, but libraries are not doing it. So I think one way that we can have this change is to have the new wave of Pakistani publishing and to support our local authors, is that people from a grassroots level go to the institutions and be like, humne apne local authors padhne hain. मेरे को उर्दू लैंग्वेज में तो हम पढ़ लेते हैं, but the ones who are writing in English are creating a completely different niche for it. Talking about mentorship as well now, because that's, I think, another aspect, since you've been part of a mentorship program, how do you think that can help the young writers? And also because the Desi Collective, what it does admirably is pick up early career writers, right? They haven't really been published elsewhere. Their work needs workshopping that you do for them. So, you know, how can people reach out to you for that, for example?
I think mentorship is a very integral part of any, you know, creative process. Arts में होती हैं, you know, visual arts के बारे में, like वहाँ पे तो होती हैं fellowships and things, लेकिन writing में नहीं है. My own experience with the fellowship or with like having instructors, because I went to a privileged institution and I had access to a writer directly, so that is unfair in any case. And even with South Asia Speaks, again, उसमें भी elements of privilege आते हैं, you know, I was online, I was able to fill it out, I had time around all these things. But I think Pakistan mein the bigger feeling has also been within the industry itself, where established writers of the past or who are older haven't taken the responsibility of setting up the next generation of writers. They have not done that. वो उनकी feeling है, and we need to admit that, because what it's done is कि उन्होंने एक divide create कर लिया है, जहाँ पे लगता है कि writers and especially जो लोग अंग्रेजी में लिखते हैं वो एक elite class है जो are removed from society who we can't approach. That's at least how I felt, you know, coming to things, other festivals that are held here. So there needs to be some mentorship. वो दरवाजे खुलने चाहिए so that वो craft share हो. Bhala the person who's taking the mentorship doesn't become a successful author. That is not the point. the point should be about promoting craft, should be about promoting writing, not about कि आप अपना ego बढ़ाएं उससे. It needs to be something that is done purely for the propagation of a certain scale. क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में creativity and creative arts are not even at a beginning stage, they're at an infancy, sadly. So we need to really, all of us really get together and work together and do these things. Meher is doing a fantastic job at Suka. The types of submissions I get for Desi Collective is outstanding. They're literally kids, OA levels, but they're taught to write from a very Western lens. कि आपने लिखना है तो आपने लिखना है कि summers are fun and winters are dreary, but that's not your reality, is it? So there is so much talent, because there's no one to guide them, there's no one to tell them, "Acha, you're doing a good job," or you can improve in this way, you can't improve in this. So I think mentorship is a very easy way to solve this problem, and the onus falls on people who are more established or who have some experience. If I've taken a mentorship for 1 year, then it is my responsibility as a person to help somebody else go through that process. And if it needs to be, you have to pay it forward. I think that is the only way. Because individually, if we talk about it individually, then सिर्फ वो लोग जिनके पास access है to money, to capital, will be the ones that go.
Because I mean, let's call a spade, right? To write anywhere in the world, you need to have some form of privilege.
Absolutely.
Because either you need a home setup where the rest of the family is taking care of you when you write.
My point, I feel that if one is privileged enough, then instead of creating your little cliques or your little groups,
You need to break out.
One needs to break out of it. I mean, I cannot tell you, this is the first time I'm actually going to say this publicly, is the number of young people who have written in asking how to set up their own publishing practices. And I've given them advice, I've given them complete guidance, I've put them through to people who are associated with publishing, and I see them setting up their pages, their Instagram accounts. They're still very small, but it is extremely heartwarming to see that chalo kisi ne to kuch seekha hai. And it's not so much about feeling good कि मैं जन्नत कमा रही हूँ. It's about कि आप देख रहे हो कि इंडस्ट्री expand कर रही है. एक तो होता है कि इंडस्ट्री में बहुत ज़्यादा लोग आ रहे हैं, सैचुरेट हो गई है या मार्केट भर गई है, वो बात नहीं है. बात आ जाती है क्रिएटिविटी की. जितनी भी किताबें मैंने अब तक छापी हैं, हर किताब का एक मकसद था. वो मकसद था कि वो अपने जॉनर को आगे बढ़ाए. चाहे वो फैशन की किताब थी जो एक कॉफ़ी टेबल बुक थी, चाहे वो एक अरसलान के साथ एंथोलॉजी थी जिसमें हमने पहली दफ़ा पाकिस्तान में एड्रेस किया था मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज़ को और ट्रॉमा को, चाहे वो सब्ज़ इरफान की ग्राफिक नावल थी जो लोगों को समझ भी नहीं आई थी क्योंकि वो एक अनोखा कॉन्सेप्ट था. लोगों को समझ भी नहीं आई थी कि ये चीज़ क्या है, इसको कैसे पढ़ना है, कैसे नहीं पढ़ना है. और चाहे वो पोइट्री की किताब थी ज़ारा हमीद की जिसमें वो मेंटल हेल्थ, ठीक है, मेंटल हेल्थ के बारे में थी और बॉडी पॉजिटिविटी के बारे में थी. मतलब द पॉइंट इज़ दैट इफ़ यू आर गोइंग टू डू वर्क यू हैव टू इन्वेस्ट इन पीपल सो दैट दे टेक द इंडस्ट्री फॉरवर्ड. प्रोग्रेस इज मेड. ये नहीं कि एक जस्ट अनदर राइटर और जस्ट अनदर पब्लिशर, उससे कोई ग्रोथ नहीं आएगी, उससे कोई बेहतरी भी नहीं आएगी इंडस्ट्री में.
And one thing that I wanted to ask you as well, I think that because you were recently part of a conference or a group, a workshop essentially that was focused solely on female-led publishing houses in Pakistan, right? This is something that I see a lot in the publishing industry, the new age of publishing in Pakistan, that a lot of women-led initiatives are coming up. Why do you think that is so?
क्योंकि हमें हमेशा
Because I know you have very strong views about this and I want you to express
क्योंकि
them.
हमेशा हमें बताया जाता है कि जी आप लेडीज़ हैं, तो हम कहते हैं जी बिल्कुल, देखने में और बायोलॉजिकली हम लेडीज़ ही हैं. तो फिर हमें कहा जाता है कि तो आप फिर सिर्फ रोमांस के बारे में लिखें. एंड आई थिंक आपने कभी देखा है कि इस मुल्क में औरतों के साथ होता क्या है? हमें पता भी होगा कि रोमांस क्या चीज़ है. Are we even allowed to know what romance is in this country, by and large, the way women are treated? And it's very frustrating क्योंकि फिर मैं समझती हूँ कि पाकिस्तान में जब भी कोई लिटरेचर की बात आती है तो कुर्रतुल ऐन हैदर साहिबा की किताबें आती हैं और वो तो रोमांस के बारे में नहीं है. उनमें तो कोई रोमांस की बात नहीं है। वापसी सिद्धवा साहिबा की जब किताबें आती हैं जो आइडेंटिटी के बारे में हैं, पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में हैं, उनमें तो कोई रोमांस नहीं है। तो ये हम पे क्यों लगा जाता है कि हम सिर्फ रोमांस के बारे में लिखेंगे? I mean, I'm very, flattered when people ask me कि आप सिर्फ रोमांस पे लिखें, क्योंकि मैं समझती हूँ कि अच्छा पता है मैं तो कोई मॉडर्न डे जूलियट हूँ। लेकिन ऐसी बात नहीं होती। मतलब आप राइटर्स को जेंडर्स में अगर रखेंगे कि ये मेल राइटर्स हैं, ये फीमेल राइटर्स हैं, तो इस तरह फिर आप अपने आप नाइंसाफ़ी करेंगे। हम लोगों ने तो लिखना है और हम लिखते रहेंगे, लेकिन अगर आपकी ज़हनियत इस तरफ है कि ये जी हसन है, ये अरसलान है, ये महर है, अच्छा जी ये मेल राइटर्स है तो इनका काम बेहतर होगा, ये फीमेल राइटर्स इनका इन्होंने क्या लिख रहा है जी, रहने दो जी, छोड़ दो, इस तरह नहीं होता। आपको समझना चाहिए कि राइटिंग इट्स अ मेंटल प्रोसेस एंड ईच राइटर इज़ एन इंडिविजुअल। अब हम तीन यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं, आप सब यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं, आप सब का और हम तीनों का एक अलग इंडिविजुअल एक्सपीरियंस होगा इस सेशन का। That's the beauty of being human. And to recognize that, you need to be able to write that down and let that work be accepted. That every individual, regardless of caste, gender, sect, provincial identity, national identity, you're a universe unto yourself. And if you're writing about that, then that is immediately acceptable. Nothing else matters. And
I think that's a very good away point as well, because usually what I've noticed is, especially for the Aleph review, every year we receive, mashallah, over 200 submissions for prose as well and poetry, but they're all very categorized. And I think हमें अब यही सिखाया जाता है कि अच्छा, every year I have a bet with myself कि कौन सी categories होंगी, और वही categories होती हैं. Their identity, recently lots of stories on trans issues, domestic violence आ जाती है, and people are writing about this because I think उनको लगता है कि जितनी shock value होगी या जितना social issue वाला topic है, that is more important rather than
that's the business side.
That's the business side of it. ना, but like आप एक magazine को भेज रहे हैं essentially, so you don't need to worry about the business. That is where your actual writing needs to come in. But वहाँ भी नहीं आ रही. So that's one thing that I tell everybody over here. Okay, if you write, whether it's poetry, whether it's even journalistic articles, whatever you're interested in writing, it doesn't need to be categorized with what you think the world needs of you, because your own viewpoint is very important. And I want you to shed some light on this as well, because right at the start when you mentioned submitting to publications abroad, especially as Meher also said, post 9/11, that's all they want from us. So what sort of space do you create in Pakistan so that we can write about our issues or things that are not even our issues, because I won a very interesting award that has come up recently, is the Salam Award for imaginative and speculative fiction. And over there you can write about, if you can create your own fantasy world. And that's a monetized prize as well, and I think we need more of those. I think the winner gets 50,000 rupees every year. So you guys should definitely look it up if you are into fantasy writing. But just a bit about the Desi Collective and what you've managed.
So with Desi Collective, I've usually tried to keep it very broad. एक theme तो होता ही है, लेकिन again it's very broad. लोग अपना interpretation उसमें ले आते हैं, they submit work. But I try not to keep it, restrictive, because people have a lot of ideas, people have a lot to say, and I just want them to sort of say what they want to. Of course, craft वाली चीजें तो है ही, like the logistics of how they've written it are different. लेकिन with Desi Collective, I wanted to create a space जहाँ पे अगर आप are a budding writer and you don't have a place to put your work, then you should feel comfortable enough to put it in our magazine. So that's sort of what I look at. I try to look at what types of things the person is trying to get at. Theme relevance isn't that important to me, but I do look at what they're trying to get at, how they've written it, and if it actually does make the impact it should. Again, because अक्सर लोग art mentored or they haven't gone through formal writing education, I try to look at things as well as potential है इसको बेहतर करने में, can this person actually take that kind of feedback on it, improve the work they've written. So Desi Collective, that's sort of what I do. You can find us on Instagram. Abhi sadly, because of the current prices, fluctuation and everything, I've put another pause to things. But hopefully soon, we'll get back to it. लेकिन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता, absolutely. And it's a matter of कि चलो एक बार तो वो space बना दिया with the print issue. I think now the new challenge is how do I create another space that caters to the situation we have. today.
And one thing I'd also I'd like to mention over here is a lot of times people want to write something very personal to them. उनको ये होता है कि हमारे घर वाले ना पढ़ लें. If you reach out, I mean, international publications very rarely will publish an anonymous piece. They want to put, I mean, unless you establish yourself like Elana Ferrante and have a whole pseudonym going on throughout your career. But most people will not publish an anonymous writer. In Pakistan, they will, because Pakistani publishers, especially in literary publications, I don't know about the books, I guess that wo bhi ho jata hai, but that's one advantage of publishing in Pakistan, publishing your work in Pakistan, is because editors over here understand that if somebody's writing about, you know, familial issues, because अक्सर लोगों को ये लगता है कि जो कहानी लिखी है वो अपने बारे में लिखी है. So I know cases where somebody's written something and, you know, their bhabhi was like, ये तुमने मेरे बारे में लिखा, you know, and it's just a story, and people take offense. So there are opportunities to get published anonymously. So if you have a story, I mean, digital platforms, Instagram, a lot of people have an anonymous account and they're putting up a lot of poetry, for example. So there are ways to just put your work out there, and I think the purpose of today is essentially to tell you that there is a platform, there are several platforms for writers in Pakistan of any, you know, any background, any voice essentially. Whatever you would like to convey, there is somebody who's going to be willing to publish you. And on that note, any closing remarks on what you expect from the audience?
No, I just hope everyone here goes away with some food for thought, and you'll all at least write down a paragraph once in your lives about something that you think, that you feel, and that you would like to keep as a memento, that many years down the line when you look back, you love the person that you are today.
Beautiful.
And I think as people, like, just generally, like, you know, if you're a creative person or just if you need an outlet, you don't need writing, like, just write for yourself first. I think that's the most important thing. Write for yourself first. If that feels right and if that feels enjoyable, then you grow your craft further. Writing just for publication isn't great. But you should first write for yourself. It can be therapeutic, it can just be journaling even.
Nobody needs to really read it.
No, exactly. The person needs to write for yourself first, then you're able to write, you know. Even if you're writing a novel, you are essentially writing for yourself. If you are at the 0th level, just taking out time to write for yourself, your thoughts, whatever it is. That's just a great way to start. Like, we put too much pressure on writing for it to be great the first time. It doesn't have to be. Like, I'm pretty sure our first drafts are completely
buried away somewhere.
Yeah. We don't get that, but yeah.
I thank you so much. I'll end on the same note as well. And if you want somebody to read your work, there are opportunities to seek them out and ask your school or college or institution to have writers and publishers more accessible to you, because we are willing to. We just need somebody to, show that interest in bridging the gap. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being here as well.